President Donald Trump did something to honor veterans yesterday that he's never, ever done before.
Mr. President, have you ever done an OORAH to a bunch of Marines?
Not the kind that I just heard. I just heard a level of professionalism with the way they did it that I don't think anybody can match it, to be honest. That's very impressive.
Mr. President, why don't you drop one? Mr. President, why don't you drop an OORAH real quick?
I will. OORAH!
Yes. Okay. We love everything about that.
We do. That was President Donald Trump appearing on the Pat McAfee show on ESPN, talking about all kinds of things, talking about OORAHs, talking about the government shutdown. In fact, President Donald Trump will today secure a victory in the shutdown battle when the House of Representatives returns to vote to reopen the government.
So the House is going to vote, and I think they're going to vote positively. I think most people want to see it open. Only people that hate our country want to see it not open, because our country is doing so well, so we don't want to waste these times. These are precious times. You know, we have $17 trillion plus being invested in our country. That's many times more than any country has ever had. We don't want to be wasting time. So they tried to basically renegotiate the great, big, beautiful deal. They weren't able to get it. And now they said, let's close up our country. We'll see if we can get it. But again, getting it for people that came into our country illegally from prisons, from gangs, from mental institutions, from, places that you don't want, and giving them think of it, $1.5 trillion in medical costs and things. You just can't do this. You can't do it. And it ruins it for everybody else. So they were not successful in renegotiation, and it looks like it's going to be opened up. But you're right. It's the House has to vote, and then, of course, I have to sign it.
Okay, so once again, I don't know your guys' world. I assume everything you just said there will have some people very pissed about it, and then obviously the rest of the world, United States of America, will be very excited that the government is back open. So I think that deserves a big OORAH! Yeah, I think they're loving that the government's back open over here.
Well, we got the military paid anyway, Pat. You have to understand, there's no way we weren't going to pay the military.
Yeah, that is something that President Donald Trump was adamant about. He was going to pay the military no matter what, and he figured out a way to do it with the help of, some very creative and generous people in the United States of America and in the U.S. government. And now they're OORAHing all over the place for their commander-in-chief because they are very, very, very thrilled that the government is opening back up. Nobody explains the pointlessness of the government shutdown better than Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller.
It was worse than pointless, Larry. It was cruel. It was capricious. It was dangerous. It was radical. It was extreme. The Democrats shut down the government in a failed attempt to extort $1.5 trillion for their pet projects, including, as has long been documented in black and white, full funding for health care for illegal aliens for several hundred billions of dollars. They resulted in, as a consequence of their shutdown, massive flight delays for the American people, huge impacts on public safety, federal workers going without pay, people who are living paycheck to paycheck, not being able to make ends meet. This was a Democrat sabotage of the Trump economy that has brought record prosperity to the American people. The Democrats, as President Trump has said, are acting as kamikaze pilots, trying to hurt America and to hurt Americans solely because they cannot stand how successful this administration has been.
And that's a pretty good summation. The Democrats do not like the United States of America. The Democrats are unhappy that the government is opening back up. The Democrats do not like President Donald Trump winning, so they do everything they can to hurt them. And one of the things that they do to hurt them is to take away their paychecks and their ability to fly around the country. It's really a cruel and unusual way to govern. But then again, Democrats are cruel and unusual people. Now, President Donald Trump wasn't just on the Pat McAfee show to talk about politics. Of course, he's going to talk about sports. And there are three things that President Donald Trump really hates. Number one is countries that take advantage of us. Number two is Nancy Pelosi. And number three is the new kickoff rule in the NFL.
I do have to say, and I'll probably get myself in a little trouble with this, I hate the kickoff.
Oh, come on, Mr. President.
That's weird.
I think it's so terrible. I think it's so demeaning And I think it hurts the game. It hurts the pageantry. I've told that to Roger Goodell. And I don't think it's any safer. I mean, you still have guys crashing into each other. And it's so, it's the opposite of what the game. The ball is in the air and nobody's moving. It's supposed to be when the ball is in the air, when the ball is played, you're supposed to be moving.
It's a live ball, Mr. President.
You walk in, and the pageantry of the game is so badly hurt. And I don't think NFL, they do what they want to do, but I don't think they'll change. I hope college football doesn't change because, the power of the kickoff was so beautiful. And now I don't want to say what it reminds me of because I'll get myself into big trouble. But it is not football. And I have no idea what you guys may disagree with me. I don't think it's going to help.
No, Mr. President, this is how we.
Yeah, it's soccer, but I think he's saying it reminds me of soccer. You just kick the ball in the air and although when the ball's in the air in soccer, I think people are running toward it too. So you know what? I don't even know what he was thinking of. But look, it was Veterans Day, and he didn't just hang out and talk about sports with Pat McAfee. President Donald Trump did the rounds, and he talked about Veterans Day, and he talked about how veterans are need to be celebrated because everything that we've ever done, everything we've ever been able to accomplish, we've only been able to accomplish because of our veterans. If you've succeeded in the United States of America in any way, shape, or form, it's because of these people.
Every captain of industry, every pioneer of science, and every star whose brilliance has lit up the lights of Broadway all share one thing in common. They only had the chance to soar because the veterans had the courage to serve. They took care of those people. They took care of all the stars. The stars that you read about wouldn't be here without our veterans. Everything we have, everything our country has achieved has been purchased by the muscle, spine, and steel of the United States military. We owe it all to the fierce and noble men and women of the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, Space Force, Coast Guard, and the United States Marines.
OORAH! That would have been a great place for an OORAH, but he was saving it for the Pat McAfee show. And he and the vice president and Doug Collins, they all went and laid a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. Doug Collins, the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, he said something which you don't often think about, but which is 100% accurate. He said, Veterans Day is a very unique holiday.
But the best part of this is that there is something to understand. Is that Veterans Day, unlike the others we celebrate, is about everyday people doing extraordinary things. Veterans Day is about men and women who come from small towns, hamlets, villages, and big towns. And they make a decision in their life to raise their right hand and say, I'm committing to something bigger than myself. I'm stepping forward where many will not. I am raising my right hand and committing myself to service to a country, as I said just the other day, to make and ensure that our military is the biggest and baddest in the world. Our veterans make that possible.
Yeah, that is true. And Pat McAfee said something to President Donald Trump, which I think is interesting and something we don't often think about when it comes to our younger veterans, those who have just recently been discharged or have left the service.
Secretary of Veteran Affairs, Doug Collins, who I got to meet this past weekend whenever he came and visited Texas Tech as BYU was down there for College Game Day. Massive crowd. He cut a promo. And he basically said that the messaging that he is trying to get out, obviously amongst all the other stuff, is there's a lot of young veterans, I think, that don't know that the VA is there for them. Is that a message that you guys kind of all giving? Because I think a lot of the younger vets view the VA as like an older type thing. And I think if I'm listening to Secretary Doug Collins speak, his big messaging and why he was at game day, and I think there's a chance why you guys are joining us, is like young vets also need to understand that the VA is there for them, Mr. President. Is that accurate?
Well, it's true. And Doug really brings that to heart, and it's really an amazing factor. The young vets don't know about it too much, and the older do. And frankly, the older vets, they wouldn't be able to make it without the VA. They do such a good job. So we're there for everybody. I mean, we're there when you're a vet, you're a vet. And we take care of our vets like nobody's ever taken care of them before.
Yeah, and that is Donald Trump's message on Veterans Day. We take care of our vets the way no one else has ever taken care of them before. We also take care of our citizens, and we want to take care of our economy. We want to make sure that the United States of America is bolstered by economic growth, and we want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to survive and thrive in this economy no matter what. And we don't want to be taken advantage of by our trading partners, our supposed friends across the ocean. And that is why President Donald Trump has been very, very adamant that tariffs are not just something for economic growth, but tariffs are important to national security. And Kevin Hassett was on television yesterday talking about tariffs and how they are crucial for the success of the United States of America.
What's more likely, a $2,000 tariff rebate check or a 50-year mortgage?
Well, you know, I think that they're both really good ideas. The fact is that we've got a big reduction in the deficit. And the interesting thing is that it's not just because of tariff revenue. We've had a big positive shock to income taxes as well because people's incomes are so much higher. And so back in the summer when we were saying that for now, let's think of the tariff revenue as something that reduces the deficit, there's more room even for deficit hawks to think about rebate checks like the president talked about because we've actually done such a good job cutting spending and the supply side effects, the Laffer curve effects of the tax cuts have actually made revenues go up. We're up about $200 billion relative to last year in revenue as well. So it makes room for it. And in terms of the 50-year mortgage, the bottom line is that it would reduce the monthly payment. We've got a real problem in America that too few people are getting that first home. And the age of first-time home buyers has gone up by about 10 years over just the last few. And so President Trump is really focused like a laser beam on trying to come up with something that addresses that.
Yeah, and that is a huge problem. When you don't have young home buyers, when you don't have people buying new homes or any homes, then what you start to see is builders lose jobs and lose income. You start to see other ancillary markets, real estate agents, they're all losing their income. And that's a downward spiral that we don't want to see. We want to see new first-time home buyers, and we want to see more first-time home buyers. And we want that economic growth factor to continue to go upward and not down. The 50-year mortgage would in President Donald Trump's and a lot of people's eyes help that. A lot of folks think it's not the best idea. Only time will tell. Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary, was making the rounds on the media. Scott Bessent went on the media to talk about how bad the media is.
I think what the president is frustrated by is the media narrative, because the media narrative, the 2021, 22, 23, and even 24 during the campaign was Americans don't know how good they have it. It's a vibe session. I still remember that word. And everyone from the New York Times to former Fed vice chair to the Wall Street Journal even, they said it was a vibe session, and instead of owning the inflation, they just said, you know, the American people don't understand how they're feeling. And we came in, we inherited a mess. We have brought the inflation down. And Rob, there are two ways for curing affordability. There's bringing inflation down, because some of the prices we are going to be able to bring down. So energy prices, gasoline,
down quite a bit.
4-year low.
Yeah.
4-year low. Mortgage rates, when the president was January 20th, when the president came in, 30-year mortgage, 7.08. Yesterday, 6.22.
Yes.
That's a huge move.
It's a big difference.
If we can get mortgage rates down into the 5s, that will help home ownership quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I think the president is just frustrated by the narrative, because I can tell you that every day he is working for the American people. That we have nonstop, all hands on deck meetings on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is something that is true. The media narrative is abhorrent when it comes to President Donald Trump and the economy, and they bolstered the Democrats for oh so long. My favorite thing was Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent going on MSNBC and roasting them for misrepresenting our position in Argentina. MSNBC tried to lie about what the United States did to help one of its allies, and Scott Bessent just wasn't letting him have it.
How does a $20 billion bailout of Argentina help Americans? You're the president's point person on that. Can you explain to those here who are feeling the pinch, including America's farmers, why the United States is helping out Argentina?
Well, do you know what a swap line is?
It's currency swap, yes.
Yes, but what is that?
You're the Treasury Secretary.
Yes, but why would you call it a bailout?
That is how.
In most bailouts, you don't make money. The U.S. government made money. We used our financial balance sheet to stabilize the government. One of our great allies in Latin America, during an election, the president there won in a landslide. The government's going to make money, and I would rather use peace through economic strength than have to be shooting at narco boats coming offshore if the government collapsed. We have a generational opportunity in Latin America to create allies. We just saw an election in Bolivia. We're probably going to see an election in Colombia. We've seen them in Ecuador. We're going to see them in Chile. So by stabilizing the economy there and making a profit, then that's a very good deal for the American people. And there's a lot we could have been doing for American farmers, but Democrats closed the government.
Look at that. Boom. In your face. Roasted. MSNB roasted is what they Personally, I'm okay with shooting the narco boats out of the water, but if you want peace through economic strength, I guess that's one way to go too. Scott Bessent knows what he's talking about. MSNBC trying to propagandize the government's involvement in Argentina, and he's just not letting them do it. And that's the kind of stuff that you get from President Donald Trump's administration, not just the president, but the vice president, the secretary of state, the secretary of the Treasury, pretty much all through the administration. You see these emboldened, intelligent, knowledgeable, combative conservatives who are fighting to make sure that we continue to win. And that is all part of President Donald Trump's style. That is all what President Donald Trump has done his entire life, in every aspect of his life, to make sure that he succeeds. And now he's doing it to make sure that the United States of America succeeds. And if you'd like to learn how you can use it to make yourself succeed, download my book, Go Trump Yourself, 10 Ways to Live Like Trump in Any Economy. The secrets of Donald Trump, how he lives his life, direct from the campaign trail, direct from the campaign itself, direct from the White House, direct from the Trump family. Things I've learned while following President Donald Trump for the last, oh my gosh, almost 10 years. GoTrumpYourself.com is the website. Get this book today. Download it instantly. Read it. You can get the audiobook as well. It's bundled together. And you can start learning how to live like President Donald Trump. In fact, if you go to Go Trump Yourself today, download the book right now, you can start living like President Donald Trump as soon as tomorrow.